Bring Polly Mike on. Just real quick, Polly, I know you're watching that interview. If we could just get your comments on this right off the bat. Unmute.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you, Sabrina and Chris, Jason. Off the bat, two very highly respected women, and they have their charge to bring their case to the court, and I think that's very well respected. I necessarily do not agree, obviously, being a priest, and of course, with my beliefs and pro-life. And I think one thing that they mentioned that I do kind of resonate with them is the constitutional right of individuals. But what about the constitutional right of the unborn? And I think that's important. That's an element that sometimes we don't speak about as if they're not even present, that life in that person does not count. And I think that's why the church has always stood for and will always stand for the right of the individual to be born and then to be considered a life from the moment of conception to its natural death. And that's why the church has always taught that life is very sacred. Human life is very sacred, and the dignity of human life is to be respected and loved and valued. And that's why this yearly march since 1973, in this month of January, since the decision of Roe versus Wade legalizing abortion, the church continues to be very active and a voice out there to remind people about the evil of abortion and the violence of abortion, and it continues to plague our families and the society that we live in. And so we hope that we can continue a peaceful and prayerful protest march. Normally we would have a March for Life, which many pro-lifers will gather at this time in DC, and hundreds of thousands from across the nation will be there. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic, it's a virtual March for Life rally. But here in the island, Archbishop Burns has asked that all Catholics be at the churches at about 4 o'clock to be able to pray and to celebrate the masses and for the intention of the unborn and the protection of human life. Mm-hmm. And that's going to happen at all 26 parishes.
Wow. And also, I was reading there's going to be a tolling of the bells, right?
Correct. And so I am sure many of you heard about the inaugural day when the church bells tolled the new administration, but it was more symbolically to remember those that have died during the pandemic or during this season of pandemic. And so we are going to ring the bells in honor of those who have died and those who of the unborn who were killed because of abortion acts.
All right. You know, I go. My son goes to St. Anthony's, obviously, but I noticed that the crosses are back up right at the front of the school.
That's correct, and that was actually on the Feast of Holy Innocents. If you remember the story in the Bible about the many firstborn that were killed because of our Lord, right? And so they are considered holy martyrs, and that's what those crosses represent, or those of the unborn on that particular event. But it symbolizes a larger scale of all those of the unborn children, of course, around the world, and especially here on our island.
And I remember, was it last year that I came out? I think I did the story with you about
2 years ago, actually now. So last year we had the feast, and then 2 years ago, 2019.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody remembers that, but somebody had defaced the crosses, and
that's
it was
correct.
Just sad. Anyway,
and the issue is very sensitive, very divisive. Obviously, many and then the two ladies have mentioned that it's going to come down to the individual's personal belief and their faith belief, and I agree with it. And I think, and that's why we want to continue to teach and uphold the church's teachings, and these are the teachings of Christ. So we believe in our Lord's teachings, and this is His teachings, and we want to continue that endeavor.
Polly, I just got to ask you, because people say this whenever this argument comes up. They say, oh, well, they care so much about the unborn, but what about the people who are abused by the priests? How do you kind of reconcile? I'm pretty sure you hear that all the time. It's one of the most recited arguments on this issue, if you will. So how would you respond to that?
And I would agree. I mean, again, the church has come out to change. I mean, it has certainly took a big hit on this issue of pedophiles and abuse of children. And And I think with the leadership of Archbishop Burns, we are now moving towards protecting God's children. And it's unfortunate that in the past, it's been like that, and we admit, and I admit it. And there's this climate of secrecy, and hey, don't tell anyone, that type of thing. But now we're being more transparent, more accountable. We have more awareness. Our children are being taught about reporting good touch, bad touch, things like that. That our teachers and our priests are going through yearly certification on virtuous training about sex abuse and things like that. And to include, Chris, even those who are in domestic violence situation, our church has always stood against these things. And unfortunately, our track record hasn't always proven to be the successful one, but it's been very consistent in the protection of human life. And so, yes, I agree. We have a history that is not good, but we hope to build a future that is better to protect our families.
Thank you, Polly.
Next.
Thank you, guys. Always doing a good job. Thank you for bringing out the news.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Catch up with us. Shoot me a message if you got anything going on next week.
All right. God bless everyone.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Welcome on.
Take care.
Polly, Mike.
Again, 4:00. The Catholic, all the Catholic churches will be celebrating Mass. Prayer intentions for the unborn will be recited. The churches will toll their bells at 4:00 this afternoon in memory of the